Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astottara Satyasri Sriman His Divine Grace Sapai Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sri Gaurnitai Ki. Sri Sri Radha Govardhana Dari Ki. Sri Sri Krishna Balaram Sri Giriraj Govardhana Ki. Golda Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the flower growers and garland makers of New Govardhana Ki. Sunflowers for their lordships. Very beautiful. And always gorgeous flower arrangements on the altar in Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa-san. So big thank you to the flower growers and garland makers. Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Adi-lila, chapter 10, text 39 and 40 today. Nandan Acharya Sakha Jagate Vidhita Luka iya dui prabhu yanra gare stita Nandanacharya Sakha Jagate Vidita Luka iya dui prabhu janra gare stita Nandanacharya, of the name Nandanacharya, Shaka, the 17th branch, Jayate, in the world, Vidita, celebrated, Luka iya, hiding, Dui, two, Prabhura, of the Lords, Yanra, of whom, Gare, in the house, Shtita, situated. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Nandanacharya, the 17th branch of the Caitanya tree, is celebrated within the world because the two prabhus, Lord Caitanya and Nityananda, sometimes hid in his house. Please repeat. Nandanacharya, the 17th branch of the Caitanya tree, is celebrated within the world because the two prabhus, Lord Caitanya and Nityananda, sometimes hid in his house. Purport. Nandanacharya was another companion of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during his kirtan pastimes in Navadvip. Srila Nityananda Prabhu, as Avaduta, travelled on many pilgrimages, and when he first came to Sri Navadvip Dham, he remained hidden in the house of Nandanacharya. It is there that he first met all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited his Mahaprakash, he asked Ramai Pandit to call Advaita Prabhu, who was hiding in the home of Nandanacharya. For Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could understand that he was hiding. Similarly, Lord Chaitanya also sometimes hid in the home of Nandanacharya. In this connection, one may refer to Chaitanya Bhagavat, Adi-lila, chapter 6 and 17. So I just wanted to welcome Chamari and Jayashree to New Govardhana. Nice to see you both. You've probably already been welcomed at Mangalarti, if you got up to Mangalarti. Just in case, and I know you've... Anyone else I should welcome from Sydney town? Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. So a big welcome to you also. Thank you. So I was following in Prabhupada's recommendation here. I did research these two pastimes from the Chaitanya Bhagavat regarding the favoured hideout of the two lords. And it is actually, as Prabhupada mentioned, Advaita Acharya also would sometimes hide out at Nandanacharya Prabhu's house. So I'll just read, there's about a page and a half, so bear with me. While Lord Nityananda was living in this manner in Vrindavan, Lord Gaurachandra manifested himself in Navadvip. Lord Chaitanya was constantly engaged in the congregational chanting of the holy names in great ecstasy, but he felt sad because of Lord Nityananda Prabhu's absence. Lord Nityananda was waiting in Vrindavan for Lord Chaitanya to reveal his Sankirtan pastimes. As soon as he heard that Lord Chaitanya had begun his Sankirtan movement, he immediately came to Navadvip and stayed in the house of Sri Nandanacharya. It's worth noting that Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur does say that simply by hearing this pastime of the two lords meeting, one will get love of Godhead. So that's... Nandanacharya was a very elevated devotee, and he was happy to have Lord Nityananda Prabhu staying in his house. He saw that the Lord was very effulgent like the brilliant sun. The Lord had a large body and was dressed in the clothes of a travelling renunciant. He was always grave and equipoised. Day and night he chanted Lord Krishna's holy name. He is the supreme unequalled personality, non-different from Lord Caitanya. Absorbed within himself, he often roared loudly like a lion, for he is the direct manifestation of Lord Balaram. His beautiful glowing face could have easily defeated 1,000 shining full moons. His captivating smile played sweetly on his exquisite lips. So white and radiant were his teeth that if a pearl were held next to them, the pearl would look like a faded and discarded piece of glass. His long, languid eyes stole the pinkish tinge of the early rising sun. His arms were long and reached down to his knees, and he possessed a robust chest and broad shoulders. His lotus feet were soft, his gait was graceful. He spoke to everyone with kind words, which severed the bonds of material attachment within everyone's heart. The coming of Lord Nityananda to Navadvip was welcomed by all the devotees with shouts of joy. Who can describe the unlimited qualities of Lord Nityananda Prabhu, the one who had the potency to break the sannyas stick of Lord Caitanya? Lord Nityananda is so merciful that anyone who chants his name becomes purified. Even a gross materialist or an ignorant or fallen person can cross over this ocean of material nayscience if he simply chants Lord Nityananda's name. His holy name is capable of purifying the entire material creation. Nandanacharya Prabhu was more than happy to have Lord Nityananda Prabhu stay in his house, and he looked after him with great care. Whoever hears Lord Nityananda's pastimes of coming to Navadvip will be blessed with love of God. Lord Vishvambara heard of Lord Nityananda's arrival in Navadvip, and he felt great joy within. Earlier, Lord Caitanya had given indications of Lord Nityananda's arrival to the Vaishnavas, but they could not understand its import. The Lord had told them, a great personality will come to Navadvip within a few days. Lord Gaurachandra worshipped Lord Vishnu in his temple and then quickly went to meet all the devotees. He told them, last night I had a wonderful dream. A chariot came and stood in front of my door. The charioteer's flag had a palm leaf drawn on it. This chariot was meant to carry one from this temporary material existence to absolute reality. The passenger of that chariot was a colossal figure. He carried a plough on his large shoulders. He was moving about as if he were restless. In his left hand he carried a renunciant's water pot, which was wrapped over by cane reeds. On top he wore a blue cloth, and his lower dress was also blue. A beautiful earring pierced his left earlobe. His whole appearance and demeanour gave me the impression that he was Lord Balaram. Then speaking, he repeated a question at least 10 or 20 times, saying, "Does this house not belong to Nimai Pandit?" Never before had I seen such a formidable-looking mendicant. I felt great respect for this person and asked, "I see that you are a great personality. Who are you?" Smiling, he replied, "I am your brother. Tomorrow we shall get to know each other." His words increased my delight, and I began to feel that he and I were the same person. Jumping ahead a little bit here. No, we're not. In the middle of the narration, the Lord went into an ecstatic trance, and entering into the mood of Lord Balaram, he began to roar and shout loudly, "Bring me wine! Bring me wine!" His thundering voice seemed to burst the eardrums. Srivas Pandit said, "Listen to me, my dear Lord. The wine that you want is not to be found anywhere, but you and others will have it only if you distribute it." The devotees, a little afraid and trembling, stayed at a distance from the Lord. The Vaishnavas thought to themselves, there must be a reason for all this. With reddening eyes, the Lord recited small lyrical poems and ballads. Smiling, he softly and rhythmically swayed his body like Lord Sankarshan Balaram. After a while, the Lord returned back to his normal self. Then Murari Gupta, the beloved devotee and friend of Lord Ramachandra, began to explain the inner meaning of the Lord's dream. My feeling is that a great personality has come to Navadvip. I had told you earlier that we would soon meet a great personality. The Lord then said to Srila Haridas Thakur and to Srivas Pandit, go and find out where this great personality is. The two great spiritual stalwarts left on the order of Lord Caitanya and roamed about Navadvip searching. On the way they discussed, maybe Lord Sankarshan, Lord Balaram has come himself. They went about looking everywhere with great happiness, but could not find a single trace of the person they were looking for. After 3 hours of intensive searching, they returned back. They humbly submitted their report to the Lord. We could not find him anywhere. We looked everywhere. We went to Vaishnavas' houses, spoke to sannyasis, went to the householders, even to the houses of the atheists and Mayavadis, but we were unsuccessful. We looked in every house in Navadvip. The only houses we did not see were the ones on the outskirts of Navadvip. Lord Gaurachandra smiled, indicating that Lord Nityananda was a very mysterious personality. In the Lord's present incarnation as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, some people only want to glorify Lord Chaitanya but refuse to glorify Lord Nityananda Prabhu. Such a grievous sin is similar to worshipping Lord Krishna, Govinda, but not respecting Lord Shiva or Shankara. Such an abominable person will surely be condemned to eternal hellish sufferings. Lord Nityananda's incarnation is very mysterious and confidential. It is impossible for anyone to see him unless and until Lord Chaitanya himself reveals this secret. Although the living entity is part and parcel of Krishna, and it is his constitutional position to be an eternal servant of Krishna, he has eternally forfeited this opportunity to engage in Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya's devotional service. Unalloyed devotees such as Srivas Pandit and Haridas Thakur are fully realized in such esoteric understandings, yet for some mysterious reason they could not find Nityananda Prabhu. Then Lord Chaitanya, laughing mildly, said, "Come with me and let us go find him." All the devotees became very jubilant and chanted, "All glories to Krishna." And they accompanied the Lord. The Lord took all the Vaishnava devotees and went directly to the house of Nandanacharya. So there's more, but we'll stop there and we'll just go to another chapter, as Prabhupada has recommended, chapter 17. And this is very nectarian also. This is when Lord Caitanya hid out at Nandanacharya's house. The Lord then went to Nandanacharya's house, and the Lord entered Nandanacharya's house and sat on the throne of Lord Vishnu. Nandanacharya felt that his house was now most blessed by the Lord's presence. He fell flat on the ground to offer obeisances to the Lord. He immediately brought fresh new clothes to the Lord, and Lord Chaitanya changed out of his wet clothes into the new ones. Nandanacharya then decorated the Lord with the deity's flower garlands, sandalwood paste, scented oils, and brought him chewing betel leaf in camphor. The Lord enjoyed these offerings made by his pure devotee, Nandanacharya, with loving surrender and forgot his aching heart. The Lord said, "O Nandanacharya, kindly hear me. I want you to hide me here." Nandanacharya replied, "My dear Lord, that is almost an impossible task. Where in this entire creation can you hide? You could not remain hiding within the hearts of living entities, but was made to appear in person by your pure devotees. One who could not hide, lying in the middle of the vast milk ocean, how can he hide in the middle of this congested human habitation?" Lord Chaitanya smiled, appreciating Nandanacharya's words, and passed the night in his house. Nandan was indeed very pious and fortunate. He conversed with the Lord the whole night along with the greatest of pleasure, divining topics of Lord Krishna and his pastimes. As if in a few short moments the light was gone, and as the Lord looked out he saw the first faint light peeping through. Hare Krishna. Magyanatimanandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master has very kindly come, forced open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my most respectful obeisances unto him. Just in light of that, one of the final comments, there is a incident where Namacharya Haridas Thakur was talking to Lord Caitanya, and he said to the Lord, you're pretending to be a devotee of Krishna, but we know who you really are. And we never know which door you're going to come in through. So this is one exalted personality of Mahaprabhu. And we've got another great soul to talk about this morning, and that is Mukunda Dutt. So I'll just read, for the sake of saving a little bit of time, this is text 40. Sri Mukunda Datta Shaka Prabhura Samadhyayi Janhara Kirtani Nachi Caitanya Goshani. Translation: Mukunda Dutt, a class friend of Lord Chaitanya's, was another branch of the Chaitanya tree. Lord Chaitanya danced while he sang. Purport: Sri Mukunda Dutt was born in the Chattagram district in the village of Chanhura, which is under the jurisdiction of the police station named Patia. This village is situated 10 krosas, or about 20 miles, from the home of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. In the Gauragana Deshtipika, it is said in Braja there were two very nice singers named Madhukanta and Madhuvrata. They appeared in Chaitanya Lila as Mukunda and Vasudev Dutt, who were singers in the society of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When Lord Chaitanya was a student, Mukunda Dutt was his class friend, and they frequently engaged in logical arguments. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would fight with Mukunda Dutt, using tricks of logic. This is described in Chaitanya Bhagavat Adi-lila chapters 7 and 8. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned from Gaya, Mukunda Dutt gave him pleasure by reciting verses from Srimad Bhagavatam about Krishna Lila. It was by his endeavour that Gadadhar Pandit Goswami became a disciple of Pundarik Vijayanidhi, as stated in Madhya Lila chapter 7. When Mukunda Dutt sang in the courtyard of Srivas Prabhu, Mahaprabhu danced with his singing. And when Lord Chaitanya for 21 hours exhibited an ecstatic manifestation known as Sata Prahariya, Mukunda Dutt inaugurated the function by singing. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised Mukunda Dutt by calling him Kajhatiya Beta, because he attended many functions held by different classes of non-devotees. This is stated in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila chapter 10. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dressed himself as the goddess of fortune to dance in the house of Chandrasekhara, Mukunda Dutt began the first song. Before disclosing his desire to take the renounced order of life, Lord Chaitanya first went to the house of Mukunda Datta, but at that time Mukunda Dutt requested Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to continue his Sankirtan movement for a few days more before taking sannyas. This is stated in Chaitanya Bhagavat Madhya Lila chapter 25. The information of Lord Chaitanya's accepting the renounced order was made known to Gadadhar Pandit, Chandrasekhar Acharya and Mukunda Datta by Nityananda Prabhu. And therefore all of them went to Katwa and arranged for kirtan and all the paraphernalia for Lord Chaitanya's acceptance of sannyas. After the Lord took sannyas, they all followed him, especially Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Gadadhar Prabhu and Govinda, who followed him all the way to Purushottam Kshetra. In this connection, one may refer to Antya-lila chapter 2. In the place known as Jaleshvara, Nityananda Prabhu broke the sannyas rod of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mukunda Dutt was also present at that time. He went every year from Bengal to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Jagannath Puri. So also it's described in Gauraganadesh Tipika that this name of Mukunda Dutt in Krishna Lila Madhukanta means a person with a honey sweet throat. So he was a wonderful kirtaniya, wonderful singer. And he also led the kirtan at Lord Chaitanya's sannyas ceremony. It was very nice. And of course there are many famous pastimes Mukunda Dutt was involved in or participated in with Lord Chaitanya, and two are very, very prominent, and Prabhupada describes them briefly here, and they'll be described more fully in later chapters of Caitanya Caritamrita. But the first one was, Mukunda Dutt was a very liberal person, and as Prabhupada mentioned, he used to go and hear discourses on spiritual topics from all sorts of different people. And many of them were not Vaishnavas. They were followers of the innumerable other different branches of spirituality that were present at the time. And this actually caused Lord Chaitanya displeasure. So during the Mahaprakash, or the 21 hours where Mahaprabhu revealed to his most confidential associates who they actually were, their identities, such as Murari Gupta was identified as the incarnation of Hanuman because he was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra, and other personalities similarly. But the only one who wasn't called for, who was standing outside the door, was Mukunda Dutt. And some of the devotees petitioned the Lord, you are not calling Mukunda, please call him also. But Mahaprabhu refused to allow him to come into that very wonderful pastime that he was performing, the Mahaprakash Lila. And he said, Mukunda has displeased me, so he has to stay outside. So Mukunda was heartbroken, crestfallen, when the devotees convey this to him, and the Lord gave his reason that he goes here, he goes there, he listens to the Mayavadis, he listens to those who are propounding yoga pratishta, philosophy, and he's too liberal. He should just go and hear from pure Vaishnavas like Sri Advaita Acharya and others. And he said, actually, I won't see him now for 1 million births. So when told of this, Mukunda Datta started to dance in ecstasy. Only 1 million births. Only 1 million births. So this was relayed to Lord Chaitanya, who said, bring him immediately. And he forgave him immediately and said, because of your pure faith and devotion in me, then all is forgiven. So that's a very wonderful pastime of Mukunda Dutt. And there's a little quote here. We have our little friend here, but he's okay. He's just relishing Caitanya Bhagavat, so we won't disturb him. And this quote is, found offender to Bhakti Devi. He placed Bhakti Devi on an equal level with karma, jnana, or even Mayavad impersonalism. So Lord Chaitanya said, whenever he talked to followers of those paths, acting like a chameleon, but by your faith and conviction, all offences are destroyed. And actually Mukunda Dutt's samadhi can be found in Vrindavan, in the area of the 64 samadhis in Sri Brajadam. He was a doctor by profession, a Ayurvedic doctor, Kaviraj, Vaidya. So that is one very famous pastime. And we have another very famous pastime is, of course, as Prabhupada again has given us here a brief glimpse into, Mukunda Dutt being instrumental in introducing Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik Vijayanidhi, who would become his initiating spiritual master. So that's described very wonderfully also in Chaitanya Bhagavat and here in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We'll just give a brief overview, if we like. It appears, as again Prabhupada has given us all the information here, that they were actually born in the same village, Mukunda Dutt and Pundarik Vijayanidhi, so they actually knew each other, even though it appears at some point in their childhood Pundarik Vijayanidhi may have moved away, but not too far, a village not far away. So they had some association, and Mukunda Dutt was very well aware of the exalted nature of Pundarik Vijayanidhi. In fact, he is none other than Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Srimati Radharani's father in Adi-lila. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified him as such and had great affection for Pundarik Vijayanidhi. In fact, he would always indicate that Father is coming in a few days, because Pundarik Vijayanidhi had one house. He was very wealthy. He was born in a very aristocratic Brahmin family, and he had great wealth and disciples. And he had two houses, one in Navadvip and one in his ancestral home. And he would come and go between the two. So on this particular occasion, Mukunda Dutt knew that Pundarik and Vijayanidhi was coming to Navadvip, and he said to Gadadhar Pandit, let us go and see the most exalted Vaishnava. He has just arrived. So Gadadhar Pandit was always eager to get the association of the Lord's exalted devotees, so he went with Mukunda Dutt. But he was a little surprised. Gadadhar Pandit from childhood was a very austere, renounced brahmachari, a brahmana. And as they entered this very opulent home of Pundarik Vijayanidhi in Navadvip, they saw that it was very luxurious, very opulently furnished, and Pundarik Vijayanidhi himself was sitting on a very opulent throne, beautifully decorated with silk bolsters and pillows. He had, the throne itself was very elaborate. It had brass armrests, 3 opulent canopies above, and there was a water pot, a spittoon. He was chewing pan at the time. And there were 2 servants, one on either side, fanning him with enormous peacock fans. And his long black hair was anointed with fragrant amalaki oil. And he looked just like Cupid or a prince. So Gadadhar Pandit was a little taken aback. But still, he had great faith in Mukunda Dutt, but he did have some doubts. And Mukunda Dutt, realizing that Gadadhar had some doubts about the authenticity of Pundarik Vijayanidhi, he recited some beautiful verses from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and I have them here, and I'll just read them. Let's go this way. The witch Putana mercilessly kills children. She tried to kill the Lord with poison. Yet the Lord awarded her the position of mother. How can a foolish person not worship such a merciful Lord? Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. As soon as The unprecedented flow of tears from his eyes appeared like an incarnation of Ganga Devi. All the symptoms of ecstatic love, like tears, shivering, perspiration, losing consciousness, etc., manifested in his body. So, and at this time it became a very powerful exhibition of the highest state of love of Godhead by Pundarik Vijayanidhi. And of course Gadadhar Pandit, he became convinced, oh, this person I misunderstood. Actually Pundarik Vijayanidhi said to Mukunda, go on reciting, go on reciting. So, and he could not contain his ecstasy, Pundarik Vijayanidhi, so much so that he began to break all of the opulent furnishings in all directions. Everything was just flying hither and thither. And this went on for some time, this incredible display of ecstatic love. So much so that Gadadhar Pandit said to Mukunda, I have to make amends for this great offence to Pundarik Vijayanidhi. I have not yet accepted an instructor, spiritual master. So I desire very much to take initiation from this great soul. And I hope by doing this he will forgive me for my disrespecting him if he became his disciple. So that's exactly what happened. It's a wonderful relationship, Pundarik Vijayanidhi and Gadadhar Pandit. So these are two very wonderful pastimes of Mukunda Dutt participating in with Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. So I thought we'd follow in Ramai Maharaj's footsteps this morning. He's been telling us wonderful stories of late in his classes. Instructions from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. So Ramai Maharaj, I thought taking a leaf out of your book, I came across one recently which I found. It's a little humorous, but it's Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, allegorical story, this one, in order to encourage his disciples to not only memorize verses from the Bhakti Shastras, but to call upon those verses, especially in times of distress, which we all know this world is a place of duality, happiness and distress. Many of his disciples were becoming great preachers and were memorizing hundreds and hundreds of verses and quoting them liberally throughout their talks as they travelled and discoursed all over India and beyond. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he wanted more. He wanted them to really enter deeply into the mysteries of those verses. So the story goes that there was a simple Bengali villager who, during the time of the British Raj, some of his friends were learning English, a little English. So he thought, I should learn a little English also. So he found out the three most common words in English were yes, no, and thank you very much. So this villager happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, they say, visiting the house of the rich man of the village. When Maharaj is smiling, so I think he already knows this story. So at that very same time, some dacoits attacked the rich man's house looking for his wealth. And the robbery didn't go well. The rich man put up resistance, and sadly it was not the intention, but he was killed during the robbery. So, and they also had this other fellow there. So what to do with him? They thought about killing him also, but they thought, well, we've already committed one unnecessary murder. We don't want to compound things. Let's tie him up and make it look as though he's committed the murder. So that's what they did. The police came, arrested him, and when he went to court, he thought it would maximize his chances if he looked a little well-educated and sophisticated. So even though the judge was asking him questions in his native Bengali, he replied in English. So the judge said, "Did you commit this murder?" And he said, "Yes." Was anyone else involved? No. You realise by admitting to this, you're going to go to jail for a very long time. Thank you very much. So of course, and Prabhupada is a wonderful example to all of us to not only memorize a few verses. Krishna is famous as Uttama Shloka, he who is glorified with the choicest verses. So it's very nice to memorize a few verses, even though we may repeat them incorrectly. Our Sanskrit or Bengali is not proficient, even though we try. But there's a wonderful pastime of Srila Prabhupada, which I also found the reference for, the wonders of modern technology here. We'll just go in and as I'm sure many of you know, well, Prabhupada as a businessman enjoyed mixed fortunes throughout his business career, sometimes making an enormous amount of money, and sometimes, as is the nature of Lakshmi Devi, she moves around. And one astrologer did actually predict that Prabhupada would become one of the richest men in India. But on one occasion, towards the end of his household of life, Srila Prabhupada, a very trusted servant or employee of Prabhupada's absconded with a large amount of Prabhupada's money, never to be seen again. But rather than become upset, Prabhupada admitted that at the time he just chuckled. And he quoted this verse, which can be found in the Srimad Bhagavatam in a conversation with Maharaj Yudhisthira. And I won't repeat the Sanskrit, though it's very nice. The Lord says, let me find the whole verse here. The Lord says, the first installment of his special favour, the Lord takes away all the possessions of his devotee. Sure you want to be Krishna's devotee? So, and there's a wonderful purport actually. Prabhupada does comment on this. It is said, it is by the mercy of the Lord that one gets material opulence. But if such material opulence causes one to become puffed up and forget the process of self-realization, the Lord certainly takes all the opulence away. But material opulence is sometimes dangerous because it diverts one's attention to false prestige by giving one the impression that he is the owner and master of everything he surveys, although actually this is not the fact. To protect the devotee from such a misunderstanding, the Lord, showing special mercy, sometimes takes away his material possessions. And there's also and there is a lecture where Prabhupada mentions this. It's a lecture in Los Angeles on the 19th of April 1973. Srila Prabhupada quoted, so Krishna said, yes, that is my first business. If I especially favour anybody, then I take away all his sources of income. Very dangerous. Yes, I have got my practical experience in this connection. Yes, this is Krishna's special favour. So, of course, confirmed. So we might stop there. Of course, if we're not attached to our material opulence, even we may have some, the thing not necessarily to give up artificial renunciation, falgu vairagya, But if Krishna blesses us with some opulence in our life, we accept that and we take care of it. We see ourselves as caretakers of family members and properties and so on. No, we're just passing through. But what we do give up is attachment. We try to give up. We try not to be so attached. We understand everything's temporary in this world. Krishna has given me this opulence to take care of for some time. Just like a father gives their child, parent gives their child some money and watches very carefully how they spend that money. If they spend it wisely, then the parent gives a little more money. And similarly, children get very excited on their birthdays because they get presents. And then as they mature a little bit, they realise that their parents also have birthdays. And someone may enlighten them that they should buy a present for their parents on their birthdays, but they don't have any money. So the parent gives them some money to buy the parents birthday presents. So in the same way, Krishna's giving us, allowing us to use a little bit of his energy and utilise it. So thank you everyone. A few minutes for questions or comments if anyone has. We have Sri microphone there if anyone wants to ask or make a comment. Ramai Maharaj. Anything anybody has? All right. Oh, Prabhu, yeah, there's one Prabhu outside. Can somebody pass in a relay race to the back?
Just a short comment. Because you were talking about Mukunda. So he actually lives in a village called Shrikam, which is called Mukunda. And he had quite an extraordinary son by the name Ramananda Thakur, who at 5 years old actually so moved Krishna by his devotion that Krishna sat down and made it offering of his devotion. And you can go to Shrikam, because at the end of the story, Mukunda, he wanted to see what was going on, so he actually came and he went out one door and hid behind the curtain. And then Ramananda made the offering and he sat down again to eat the offering. And at the end he had a laddu in his hand. And then Mukunda said, now I know what's going on. But he got back up in the altar and he still got the laddu in his hand now. So you can go there to Shrikam and see the laddu in his hand.
Very nice. Thank you. Nishana Kavacha. Jivadoya Prabhu had a question or a comment too.
You mentioned about Haridas Kite for saying Lord Caitanya, you pretending to be the devotee, proving out who you actually are. And so the thought came up in me that in Krishna, devotees are very covered over by yoga maya, so that the Lord's pastime is not disturbed, it's pastime of sweetness. You're not realizing who he is in relation to being God. So why is it that yoga maya is not acting in the same way so much in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes? We've seen so many of the devotees. It seems to be that many of them, with many exceptions as well, but quite aware of his godhood and often express that awareness that would seem to disturb the Lord's mood. Like that. Can you explain the difference that's taking place there and why?
That's a tough question. I can try. So essentially you're asking, in Krishna's pastimes and Mahaprabhu's pastimes, there appears to be some differentiation. Mahaprabhu's, in Krishna's pastimes, Yoga Maya, I'm just not really clear. In Krishna's pastimes also, he appears, he manifests to his intimate devotees his godhood in certain pastimes, but for many others, they couldn't recognize him. And similarly, Mahaprabhu had his revelations, such as the Mahaprakash, and also in Jagannath Puri, when he revealed to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya his six-armed form, Sadbhuj, 2 arms holding a water pot and sannyas staff as Lord Caitanya, the renunciate, and 2 arms as Lord Ramachandra, bow and arrow, and two hands playing the flute. So many examples like that in Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And similarly, Krishna manifested wonderfully to confidential, such as Mother Jasoda, seeing the Lord's universal form on 2 occasions. Even Duryodhana saw the universal form as a final warning before the great battle of Kurukshetra. So Maharaj, did you want to come in here and add something to that? Jiva, do I hope that's a little... Do you want to pass the microphone, Jiva? Yeah.
You were pointing out that there are similarities there, but Lord Caitanya would react differently to Krishna in that
Turn on the microphone, Maharaj, please. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there happens, as you pointed out, it happens in Krishna's pastime, that sometimes he manifests his godhood, and sometimes he doesn't, and it would seem that Yogamaya acts to enhance the pastime and assists the Lord like that. So whether you can say, you stated that it's different for Lord Caitanya, and it seems to be different, that she's acting differently as women, and well, I mean, she would be acting differently because they're different manifestations of the Lord. But certainly there are a lot more similarities in that Lord Caitanya would show his guidance on occasion. You gave an example of the subtle of the chariot, and to run under royals, and to others as well. And other times he would, but others would recognise him as, but he would never, sometimes he would just refuse to hear it, other times he would manifest. And so whether there's a specific one reason of that, or whether there is a reason that Yogamaya acts differently, I would say, but it's all based on the desire of the Lord in each case. It's all based on what Krishna desires to enhance the pastime, and Yogamaya acts accordingly, or Yogamaya just independently knows how to do that. And so, also with, and Yogamaya manifests just like in Caitanya Lila, she manifests as Prodamaya, which she's like a government. She keeps that whole Dharma hidden from those who are not very relevant. So it's kind of it begs a complex answer that I don't know if I've got that much time to go into this point in time. I haven't read anything specifically by the Acharyas that explain that. Maybe something explained by Jiva Goswami in Caitanya or something like that. But I haven't read a bit of maybe some specific
Jai. Thank you, Maharaj. Hope that's helpful, Jiva Dwaya Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Jai. Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.